Back in the summer of 2021, I had been working from home for a while and got burned out because of it. My friend Nate and I planned a weekend trip to the Catskills to clear our head for a bit. Both of us had grown up camping, and over the years we'd gotten comfortable with venturing off marked trails and spending nights deep in the woods where we could enjoy complete silence and no other people. The more remote, the better. So it wasn't like we were new to it. We chose a lesser-known loop trail we found on an old backpacking forum. It wasn't listed on all trails, and the posts about it were a couple years old, but that only added to its appeal. We wanted real isolation, somewhere quiet, a place where we wouldn't run into other campers or noisy groups, a quiet few days away from everyone and everything. The last thing we were looking for was to socialize with other people. We arrived late afternoon, parked at the faded trailhead, and set off with our gear. We had a decent amount of heavy gear with us because we had planned to spend the entire weekend there, but we managed to divide the weight and carry everything we could with us. The hike was about 3 hours in, squeezing through thick brush and uneven terrain that clearly hadn't been maintained in a long time. The place felt really old. Not in a mystical way, just abandoned type old, like no one had stepped a foot on that terrain in years. Even the usual sounds of birds and nature was weirdly absent there. It was dead quiet. By the time we found a decent clearing beside a small stream, it was nearing dark. We set up camp, cooked, and passed out instantly because of how exhausted we were from the long hike. The second day was fun. We hiked around, fished a little, and gathered more wood for that night. As the night came, we lit up the campfire and talked for a bit. About 30 minutes into our talk, we started feeling drowsy, so we decided to end the night and go to sleep. That night, something woke me up. It was subtle. Not a snap or crash, just the uneasy sensation of movement nearby. It was as if I could feel someone standing outside my tent. I kept still, trying to figure out if I was dreaming, but then I started to hear it more clearly. The soft crunch of leaves, one step at a time, slow, as if the person was trying not to wake us up. I knew for a fact it wasn't an animal, because the footsteps sounded more human-like. Animals usually just run past in a couple of seconds. These footsteps were too intentional. It sounded like someone was circling around our tent. My first thought was that maybe another hiker had stumbled onto our site, but we hadn't seen a single person in over 24 hours. The trail was barely used. There was no reason for anyone to be out here in the middle of the night, and certainly not without announcing themselves. It's an unspoken rule of camping that you don't just sneak up onto someone's campsite unannounced, especially not at night. I held my breath, listening. The footsteps would stop occasionally, then pick up again, always just right outside the wall of the tent. I could feel the tension rising in my chest with each pause. I knew Nate was awake too. I could tell by how still he was lying, clearly trying to assess the same thing I was, whether this was a threat or just our minds playing tricks. Eventually, the sounds moved away. Not far, just enough to fool us into thinking maybe it was over. Then I heard another sound, one that made my blood run cold, a zipper. Not ours. Ours were all closed. It had to have been our bags and camping gear. I kept on listening. I waited, eyes wide open, unable to move. The zipper noise came from where we'd left our packs, near the cold ashes of the fire pit. That was about 10 feet from the tent. I slowly reached for my flashlight, but I didn't turn it on. Part of me didn't want to see what was out there. I didn't know if they were armed or not. I didn't want to escalate the situation. After several minutes of silence, I slowly unzipped the tent, just enough to peek through. At first, I didn't see anything. Then, as my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I saw something. A shape, a tall silhouette of a man was standing near our bags. Just standing there, not crouched down or rummaging, just observing them. I couldn't make out any facial features or the clothes he was wearing because of how dark it was. All I could see was just his silhouette, standing there in silence. My heart was pounding at this point, and I contemplated waking Nate up, but I didn't. I was too scared to even move. He had no gear, no flashlight, no signs that this was another camper. It was as if he just came out of the woods from thin air. I managed to regain control over my body and crawled back inside, quietly pulled the zipper back up, and and sat frozen for what felt like forever. I was just hoping he would go away and leave us alone. The man eventually moved away. I could hear the sound of his footsteps slowly fading into the trees. Nate turned around and looked at me with horrified look. His face was fully pale. We whispered to each other, trying to come up with a logical explanation. We couldn't. Needless to say, we didn't sleep after that. The woods were completely still for the rest of the night, but the weight of that moment didn't leave. Our minds would play tricks on us as if he came back, but then there would be silence. It was the most paranoid night I have ever spent. We waited until first light before stepping out to assess the area. To our horror, our backpacks had clearly been tampered with. Zippers half open, pockets shifted around. Nothing was stolen though, which was weird. It was as if someone had just gone through them carefully without the intention of stealing anything. Then we noticed the footprints. They were boot prints, larger than either of ours, and they circled the tent, twice. They led toward the stream and then back into the forest. But here's the thing, they didn't come from the trail. They came from deeper in the woods. This meant whoever was out there wasn't just some hiker passing through. They hadn't stumbled onto us by accident. They were already out there, long before we arrived, watching us for God knows how long. We'll never know who that guy was or what he was looking for. We packed everything up in near silence and hiked out faster than I thought was possible with full packs. It took us half the time to walk back as it did to get there. We still talk about it from time to time, trying to think of an explanation. I haven't gone camping since, and I don't think I ever will.